our society. And so we bring this concept to them, and they start to develop fear. And once you have a fear of mistakes, you cannot focus on the music. And the same with every student. I mean, when they perform on stage, when you go on stage, you know, like 90% of us, 99% of us, what are we worried about if we perform? What were you worried about forgetting today? Of course, yeah, we all do. I mean, it's so natural because we have so many notes, right? And so we always go, and what are we thinking about? Oh, I shouldn't forget that, you know, oh, this is the second one, oh, yeah. And so your brain just races instead of focusing on the music, on the message, and listening to yourself. That's all you think about, okay? And I don't think it's creative enough. I don't think it's enjoyable, because then you do it, but it's kind of something you have to overcome. So this is what I focus on when I teach, at least what I try to. And I don't know how many of you know this quote by Debussy. He said, in music, pleasure is the law. In music, pleasure is the law. I love this quote, okay? Do we obey this law when we teach? We forget what pleasure is, right? Because in the other business, it's no pain, no gain, right? Pain is respected, pleasure is not even mentioned, because this is something forbidden, pleasure. Yet, psychology tells us that everything we do in life drives human behavior is driven by two forces. Our ability, our desire to gain pleasure and our desire to avoid pain. We are wired for this, okay? We all want pleasure. So what can we do when we teach? We can seek pleasure in everything we do. And pleasure comes from what? From fun, from being creative, from being relaxed, from having certain atmosphere to lessons. Personally, I don't like this, you know, when students sometimes when they come and there's a teacher who is the boss, you know, and the teacher does not allow any questions in the lessons, and, you know, the students, they have to bow like that and go, yes, master, yes, master, yes, master. I personally, I don't like this kind of relationship, because I think when we work with a piece of music, we create it together with the students. So I don't mind being or looking foolish sometimes, you know, or having some grimaces on my face, and they all know, you know, some of them, they laugh at me in class, and they say like, oh, well, don't say anything, but or I can put something on myself on Halloween, you know, like devil horns, and come for a lesson. But I guess this informal atmosphere, it's the step one to begin with, you know. And then the second one, when you start to work with a composition, you both create that. It's not that one plays and another one tells what to do, because the chance is that another one who tells you what to do maybe doesn't know enough anymore, you know. And even if she knew it yesterday, the world is changing, people are changing, and it will be a different thing today. The other thing, what we could do, Carl Jung, he said, and this is a very noted psychologist, he said, the creative mind plays with the object it loves. Okay? What does it mean to us? We should play the music we love. Okay? We should assign to our students the music they love. Because very often what happens, student comes and says, I don't like this piece, but the teacher will say, well, but you have to do this piece. Or you have to play some Bach, and this, you have to do Bach invention. And they kind of push the student to do that. Personally, my philosophy is different. I don't do that. If somebody doesn't like a particular piece, there are tons, you know, of music we have. The repertoire is enormous, you know, and if they don't like one piece, you can always find something else. Always, always. And if they are not ready for Bach or Beethoven, it's okay too. If they don't understand what they do, it's very hard to enjoy, don't you think? When you don't understand a Bach prelude, it's very hard to enjoy it. And it's, for me, as a little kid, it was hard to understand Bach. And therefore, to enjoy, I never liked it, but I had to do it, okay? Or if you read Horowitz's biography by Glenn Plasky, and that's what Horowitz said. He said, I never enjoyed Beethoven before a certain age, and I'm not ashamed of that. You know, because time is right for everybody is different. You know, somebody enjoys Bach at 7, like Glenn Gould, okay? Okay, and somebody just has not stayed in Bach when he or she is 57, and it's okay, okay? So I try not to be rigid in this, and it's actually very funny. Last semester I had a new freshman, and she came, was her first days at the University of Kentucky, and over the summer she contacted me and she asked for some suggestions what kind of music to play, and I suggested her Greek, the wedding day. Okay, and she emailed back, I love the piece, I'm going to work. And then at the beginning, in September, I saw her and she was like, I love the piece, I want to play, I love it so much. And she went to the practice room and I could hear how enthusiastically she plays. It sounded great. And her face was radiant, you know, she was so happy, I could see. And then I went on sabbatical. And then I got back in January. And I see the same person, but it's not the same person. She has changed so much. She's like a little zombie. Hi, how are you? Good. What did you play last semester? Oh, I played some high piece. I don't even remember what it was. Did you like the piece? No. Okay. You see? Do you see what I'm saying? The enthusiasm was killed right away. Why? Why force them to do something they don't like? I always ask my students, do you like this piece? Play something you really love. Find something which makes your heart tremble, okay? Which gives you this great satisfaction. That's very, very important. Okay. And another psychiatrist, see, I have this psychologist and psychiatrist almost. Well, sometimes we need them, you know, to confirm the point we're trying to make, okay? But anyway, another psychiatrist I have here called Dr. Karen Boyon, I guess that's how her name is said. She says, the most important element in learning process is the emotional capacity to relax and be innocent no matter what your age. Is the emotional capacity to relax and be innocent no matter what your age. So how can we do that? Can we do it all? We should do it ourselves first, I guess, when we have a lesson. But second, when students come, what we can do, we can make their bodies comfortable. And as soon as the body is comfortable, the brain is emotionally receptive, okay? And what happens in piano business very often, we underestimate the role of the body. And the body is an instrument, okay? Playing the other instrument. But we don't think this way. Very often we forget, again, because we have so many notes to learn, and so many notes to study, and so many recitals to do. But all other instrumentalists, or even singers, they always discuss not only position of the body, but how to use your body better to produce the desirable effects. We do too, but usually when as soon as somebody sits at the piano, first of all, we almost never do things outside of the piano. We're almost, you know, the student is sitting and we're doing things right there. But outside, we never experiment. You know, we never ask the student to stand up and just kind of feel your body. What do you feel? Do you feel your buttocks really well? Do you feel your legs really well? Do you feel your feet really well? What parts can you squeeze a little bit and relax and so on? We don't do that. And again, as Sir Ken Robinson in this famous presentation I mentioned, he said, once there is a certain age, we only appeal to them from the waist up. And the weight only to their brain, and only to one part of their brain. And he's absolutely right. And as you all know, there are two parts of the brain, right? One which is responsible for logic and math and calculations and manipulations as well. And another one is to only understand the language of pictures, emotions, okay, and intuition, okay. In arts, of course, intuition is paramountly important. And that's why knowing your body is important too. So what I personally would like to do when students come, even when they come at the DMA level sometimes, I really would like to make them aware of this instrument they have. And how do we do that? Sometimes through the exercise, just standing, and I call it the relaxation agent exercise, when somebody just stands in the room, for example, and really group, and then you imagine that you have a little agent inside of you, and this agent travels through you, and you say, and he says, or he commands, okay, relax your forehead, relax your nose, relax your ears, relax your cheeks, relax your stomach, relax your hands, and so on. And that gives an awareness, okay? Because when we play, we actually need not only fingers or elbows, or shoulders. We need every fiber, every cell, every nerve from our body, because we are keeping the complete being in the process, okay? So the other thing which sometimes concerns me, and that's why I did a little experiment in class a few weeks ago. I pretended that I am a 7-year-old girl and I want to take piano lessons, and I want some of my students to teach me. Okay? So I said I'm 7, and whoever, you're a teacher, okay, go and teach me, please. Okay, so I had my parents, so we go to a lesson, okay? And so the student teaches, and he says, hello, my name is such and such, and I say, I'm Pauline, my name is Pauline. Okay, Pauline, so you want to play the piano, the piano? I say, yes. And he goes, okay, go, please sit down. Here's the middle C. Here's your first finger, put the finger, okay? Okay, then I called the second student, okay? He was a little more creative, but still, he wanted me to play right away and to know, this is the C, this, all, and this. And so my question is, this is so huge, okay? Grand piano. This is huge. This is much bigger than violin, okay? When Mozart started at 2, he had his little violin, not the real one, but the little one, okay? He probably slept with that. He probably played it as if it was a toy, okay? And if I am 7, okay, or 6, or even 9, and I've never seen this box close, okay? So here it is, it stands, and if I am seated right away at the first lesson, and all I know about this box is just where the middle C or where the other keys are, I don't think it's a good way to start a relationship and to make a friend with this amazing and huge instrument, okay? So there are some things I wish my first teacher would teach me at the first lesson, because she did it the same way, she didn't show me, but luckily I was curious enough, later especially in my life when I started to understand what's going on, okay? So other instrumentalists, when I think about violin, for example, it's so exposed, you can see the strings, you can touch the strings, the cello, so exposed, the strings are there, and they hug them, they connect to the instruments very, very close, right? Violinists here, cellists here, tuba, they hug them, they walk with them, clarinet players, they have it under the arm, and we are disconnected. And not only we are disconnected because it's so huge and we touch only with our finger pad, but sometimes we have no idea what's inside and how it sounds inside. And so here I did an experiment with the same freshman I mentioned, the one who was very enthusiastic last semester. I was working with her, and luckily she plays guitar, and I asked her, when you play the guitar, how do you touch your instrument? She said, well, the string is there, I touch the string, I feel the string. And I said, well, go ahead and touch the string here. And she went just like, wow, wow. and I'm like, how long have you been playing the piano? 10 years? And it's the first wow, you just think, could you do it before? Somehow such a simple thing just doesn't cross our minds, okay? Because we are taught just, once it's here, we forget that it exists. We take it for granted. And there are so many interesting things here. And what I also sometimes do with the students, and I did that with one of my students with the piano minor, actually. He was a little kind of afraid of the instrument, and I told him, is piano your friend? And he said, well, not really. I said, do you want to make a friend with the piano? He said, try. And I said, how do you make friends? He said, well, at first I say hello. He said, well, very nice, why don't you say hello to the piano? He said, what? He said, no, say hello to the piano. And he's like, how? And I said, well, just lean forward over there and say, hello, piano. And so he felt really awkward. I mean, anybody would, right? And so while he was leaning to the piano like that, I pushed the pedal down. Okay? And he was like, hello, piano. And he heard the echo. Do you hear the echo, little echo? Yeah, and he heard it, and he was there, and he was stunned. He was like, it talks! And I said to him, of course it does. And the same, every time you push down the key, it talks back to you. And this is the idea, I think. It's a very simple, maybe even silly idea. But once little kids, when they come for a first lesson, and when you do something unusual, it's something which makes impress them and kind of shake them up a little bit, they will remember this lesson for the rest of their lives. Because very often I ask people, do you remember your first lesson? Many people say, no. And what a shame. I mean, this is the first beautiful encounter, A person comes to learn how to play the instrument. He doesn't remember how it happened. It's almost like if you've been married for 30 years and you ask your husband, do you remember how we met? And he says, no. How would you feel? Okay? Well, to me, it is the same. Okay? So there's so many things we can do. It's just a matter of taking it a little bit in a way which seemed to be a little crazy at first, but in fact, it's not, because, again, if you are like, be like a kid, be like a kid, be like a kid, and you explore with the kid together, you will get a tremendous satisfaction of the process. And gradually, it's almost like, when I started doing it first, it's almost like the process itself tells you what to do. You don't need a textbook. You just feel what is natural and kind of appropriate to do next. Okay, but getting back to body exercises or treating the body as an instrument, as I said, it's very important to us because we're so disconnected. So first, as I said, we do a little bit our body awareness, but then as soon as we have to sit down with the piano and we have to produce the sound, then another issue comes up, and this is listening. Okay? So, because this instrument is not a typewriter, right? Here, if I push the keys, no matter what, but there, when I push the keys, it's a different effect, or no effect, okay? Because amazingly, with this instrument, whatever you feel, or whatever you picture, whatever you imagine, comes out as you play. And that's why we love to listen to Horowitz, because he makes us cry. We don't even understand what happens, but there's certain places, and you cried before. Like, there's a particular spot in the second movement of the Rachmaninoff Sonata, which I've heard, I don't know how many times, Horowitz plays it. And every time I know this place is coming, and I say to myself, don't cry. You already cried last time, don't do it. But this place comes, and I do it anyway. It's just because he feels it on such a deep level that even through the recording, it comes out and it moves you. And you realize, well, after performances like that, you realize, well, life is worth living, right? Not bad. Okay, so big challenge for us, how to listen, how to project. Because lots of notes to play at the same time, and what do we do? How do we actually teach our students to listen? Because listening is everything. The way you listen is the way you perceive life, okay? Why? Because we all have senses, okay? And our eyes, we can shut down. I can close my eyes and I don't see anything, okay? But you cannot shut down your ears. Your ears, they listen, they hear things all the time. And that's a problem. Okay? That's a big problem. Because sometimes you hear things you need and sometimes you don't hear them. Because see, despite the fact that our bodies hear things all the time, we can select what we want to hear. Because see, right now I talk and you can listen to my talk, or you can focus on some little noise we heard, okay? Or you can focus on the lamps, okay? It's your choice, okay? So when we play the piano, it's also a choice. So how do we actually make sure that we listen, or ourselves and teach our students to listen? Well, when I was searching in this area, I came upon the research of Dr. Alfred Camatis, who is a French scientist. And he spent his entire life searching and researching and looking for answers how human ears work, okay? And he came to the conclusion, and I suggest you to Google him and find out more, because we don't have time to get into detail. But he came to the conclusion that we not only hear with our ears, but we actually hear sounds with our bodies, okay? And the reason for that, he said, and see, we don't have the old overhead projector here, unfortunately. I'm so old-fashioned. I have a beautiful scheme over here created by Dr. Camatis. So this is how we all look inside. This is just a scheme how we look inside. Can you see a little bit? So this is our lungs. intestines. Okay, it's just a little scheme over there. Okay, and so what he proved in his research, this is our ear. Okay, this is the ear, and he proved and he found out that the ear is connected to all muscles in our body. Okay, the ear is connected to all muscles in our body. Okay, through medulla or brainstem. Okay, so which means when we hear something or when we play and we listen to the sound, it's not only our ears but our muscles in our body they respond too, and apparently, they may be affected by what we hear as well. Okay, and then he also proved that through the ear there's a vagus nerve, and this nerve is connected to all major organs in our body, which is our heart, our lungs, our liver, our kidneys, our anus, everything. Which means, again, that when we hear something, we hear it with our lungs as well. When we hear certain sound or vibration, we hear it with our kidneys. Okay? Which means, for us as musicians, we can use it when we play and when we practice. Okay? Because our bodies, they are very, very wise. The evolution works so hard on us, and so we're incredible biological machines, right? We sometimes even don't know ourselves very well, but our body has this incredible ability to hear the sounds, to hear the vibration. Okay, and that's probably why Beethoven, despite of being deaf, he was so incredibly creative in his last sonatas, for example. And I mean, he went a step forward than anybody else, even though he could not hear music in reality. Okay, or that is probably why Evelyn Glennie. Do you know the name Evelyn Glennie? She's a Scottish percussionist. Okay, and she has an international career. She's the first woman who actually made percussion a solo instrument. She's completely deaf. Okay? Completely deaf. She doesn't hear the way we hear. Yet she's the soloist with all those international orchestras. She does her thing. How does she hear? That's the question. How? Do you want to know how? I can tell you how, and then I'll show you a little bit of her presentation, how she explains it herself. So, Glennie first learned to recognize high and low notes by putting her hands on the wall outside the school's music room. She recalled that some notes made her fingers tingle, while other notes vibrated her wrist. I have an overall sensation of sound from many sources, whereas hearing people rely only on their ears, she reports. Okay? So, what does it tell us when we practice the piano? Can we activate our bodies and actually use them to help us to hear better? Of course we can. But first, let's watch a little bit, just a little short excerpt of Evelyn Glennie when she describes. She gave a beautiful presentation on TED as well. It's called How to Truly Listen. She teaches the world how to listen. A deaf person does that. Okay? And we should listen because she makes a great point. Not only whisper, fantastic playing, okay? But with the way she actually verbalized this. Okay. So let's go. We need everything.
I remember when I was 12 years old and I started playing timpani and percussion, and my teacher said, well, how are we going to do this? Music is about listening. And I said, yes, I agree with that. So what's the problem? And he said, well, how are you going to hear this? How are you going to hear that? And I said, well, how do you hear it? He said, well, I think I hear it through here. And I said, well, I think I do too, but I also hear it through my hands, through my arms, my cheekbones, my scalp, my tummy, my chest, my legs, and so on. And so we began our lessons every single time tuning drums, in particular the kettle drums or timpani, to such a narrow pitch interval. So something like that of a difference, then gradually and gradually. And it's amazing that when you do open your body up and open your hand up to allow the vibration to come through, that in fact the tiny, tiny difference can be felt with just the tiniest part of your finger there. And so what we would do is that I would put my hands on the wall of the music room, and together we would listen to the sounds of the instruments and really try to connect with those sounds far, far more broadly than simply depending on the ear. Because of course.
Okay, so what she's saying, she hears with organs of your body, exactly what Dr. Tomatis explains in the scheme. And second, she was saying, I feel the vibration. And what is vibration? Vibration is the sound, okay? And interesting story I want to tell you about this person, about Evelyn Glenn. She came to Lexington several years ago. She always plays in bare feet, okay? And she had a rehearsal with the Lexington Philharmonic. And I went to this rehearsal. And they played a contemporary composition, a concerto. And they rehearsed, you know, the conductor, he's doing his job, you know, something like that, you know. She is doing this, okay, that was just playing, and then at some point she stops the orchestra and she says, excuse me, in measure such and such, I am playing this short passage, and the piano is not exactly with me. Okay, so the conductor stopped the orchestra and he says, okay, let's do it one more time. So they do it one more time. So he looks at her and she says, no. He looks at her, okay, the conductor, and she says, no. We're still not quite together. Can you imagine the precision with which this woman hears everything, you know? The conductor didn't hear that. She heard, yes, they have.
Was she deaf from birth?
No, she started to lose it at 8, and by 12 she was completely deaf.
Because usually you'll hear the speech, you know, she doesn't
Yeah,
speak like that.
Yeah, the way she speaks, and you know, she reads your lips when she talks to you. She can read because after that happened, and after they fixed it, okay? Twice they couldn't get it, the conductor didn't get it, but then they fixed it, she was satisfied, and then after the rehearsal, I went to her, I wanted to talk to her, and the first thing she told me, you speak with an accent, what kind of accent is that? And I'm like, what? Are you really deaf? She's probably cheating. No, she's completely deaf, you know, there were studies made on her, and confirmed that she is. Okay, but she can see it. So see how developed her senses are, okay? And I guess today what I'm trying to say to you, that the more senses we develop in our students and in ourselves, and the more we combine those senses, the more enjoyment and satisfaction we receive as a result, okay? Not only rely on one sense, but all senses, visual, kinesthetic, hearing, abstract, smell, everything at the same time, the whole body experience. But anyway, and I asked her, how did you hear that you were not together with the orchestra? Because even the conductor didn't hear that. And she said, well, I just hear the vibration. And I heard the vibration was not quite there, okay? So, do we hear the vibration when we play the piano? That's the question I ask my students all the time. And that student I already mentioned, the one who was enthusiastic about the piece about the Greek, and then she lost her enthusiasm. When we worked with her, when she touched the key, and when we started to experiment with the piano, and I brought her attention to this fact, I said, listen, if you really follow how the sound dies, you can hear this this vibration. Sound never just exists and dies right away, right? It has the sound wave, no matter how dry the movement, it always lasts a little bit. Okay? Maybe it's not an accident that Glenn Gould, he would spend hours listening to one note only for hours. He was so obsessed with the decay. He wanted to listen till it dies. And the same Arthur Rubinstein, he used to do this too, under the piano. His sister was practicing, he would be under the piano, he was obsessed with this, how it doesn't die. Okay? But anyway, she heard the first time this vibration and she was like, wow, it vibrates. And I asked her to put the hand right here and I played the sound and she felt the string and she felt this little sound wave. She was very excited. That's probably what Evelyn is talking about. She probably hears this all the time, through the floor, through different surfaces, But we as performers, can we be aware of this too? Are we aware today about that? How useful would it be? What do you think? I think it would tremendous enjoyment first, because remember we want enjoyment all the time. And when you just listen abstractly, if I say, okay, listen to this F sharp, okay? What? F sharp, yeah, I hear F sharp. But if I say, listen to how the vibration of F sharp, how it goes in circles and gradually decays, then you have a goal. You pay attention. It's a very simple task, okay? But if I now say, can you imagine that then when the vibration comes, that it actually travels through your body, then you have a second task. You start imagining that the vibration comes, it goes through your face, and if you're alone, not like people are watching you, but by yourself in the quiet room, you can really feel it inside of yourself. It's like what he said, your inner organs are just they're breathing this wonderful, wonderful vibration. So I guess what we're not doing enough of this raw investigation or exploration, because sound is our raw material, right? We speak with the sound when we play, right? I can't speak when I play, so I can only use certain notes, certain pitches, but pitches by themselves, they're empty if they're not with a meaning. But if I hear the vibration, and if I filter that, and if I imagine at the same time that it travels through me, it gives me a tremendous satisfaction. Try it at home. I guarantee your body will love it. Love it. And that's why maybe even nowadays, in Africa, people still heal each other with vibration. They use drums, and when somebody gets sick, they call a shaman, and shaman goes and uses a drum and this vibration. They're humming together as well, and so they heal each other as well.